Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to Yacc, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game I played for a week and then I'll talk about it. This week's game is Kid Dracula for the Famicom. It was released in 1990, but the way I played it this week was on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, released in 2019. Developed by Konami and also published by Konami, and it's a single-player platformer. And there will be spoilers up ahead, just so you know, but first a little backstory. So, it's fall now, the leaves are turning orange, red and yellow, and during this time of year I'm mostly gravitating towards horror movies and horror games, and Castlevania is always a franchise that I gravitate to. And so I grabbed the Castlevania Anniversary Collection for basically nothing, and I checked it out, and Kid Dracula was one of the titles. So the game starts with Kid Dracula watching the moon as it turns into a demonic face, and he throws a rock or a fireball at it, and it turns into day. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't think that vampires can stand sunlight, but I guess Kid Dracula is special. So the plot of this game is really simple. Kid Dracula, a self-proclaimed demon king, is awakened from a long slumber, and he realized that he's been challenged by a demon called Galgamoth, and he's forced out on an adventure to beat this guy and reclaim his throne. And then you can select new game and continue is more or less a password system. And then there's a cutscene where lightning strikes his coffin repeatedly and he is awoken. So you have 3 hearts and 3 continues to begin with, but you can have up to 5 hearts. You jump with the circle button, you fire with the square button, and if you hold the square button you get a charge attack, so you have different abilities as you move along and complete stages and whatnot. And this game has no timer, so you can take your time. You can also remap the keys in the options menu. I didn't know that at the beginning of the week, but it's a nice feature to have. So the enemies of the first stage are cute zombies, bats, knights' armors, jumping enemies, and Frankenstein's monsters. So this game is more or less a parody of the original Castlevania, so everything is a little bit cuter and a little more kid-friendly. So level 1 is more or less a homage to the first Castlevania. You have the main hall, just like the first game. You have the clock tower and other classical areas. Eventually you will go up the stairs to Dracula's main chamber, where you will fight a small ghost and a big ghost. And once you beat those 2 bosses, you get another ability called the homing attack, and it's basically a small flurry of small projectiles that hones in on enemies. And it's time for the minigames, so think of a pachinko machine, but it's ladders. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you place Kid Dracula at the top of the ladder and he goes down a path, and the path is more or less revealed as the game goes on. So you have a couple of minigames, can, roulette, to name a few of those. And then it's on to the next level, which is in the clouds. So the enemies of these stages are birds, witches, and yes, Kid Dracula suffers from the classical Belmont disease called knockback, so imagine that but on clouds. So you go through the clouds and you end up in a machine structure hall leading to a breakneck power rail section, and while 2 demons are shooting at you, one is trying to push you off the platform and another one is just shooting lightning. So you can take them out, but it's kind of a ridiculous battle, and during this section the game actually has a lot of slowdown just because of the amount of sprites, effects that is going on. And then I got my first game over, but luckily the password system is really short and simple, so it only contains 3 letters or numbers. And then it's time for the boss, and in this case a giant chicken. So I used the homing attack on this boss because it was the simplest way to deal with him. So basically avoid his attacks and use the homing attack. And after beating the chicken I got the bomb ability. So the bomb ability has a projectile that is sort of, it has an area of effect. So if a couple of enemies are within the range they take damage as well. And then it's time for the classic minigame again. And now it's time for the next level, and it's underwater and it's full of spikes and stuff. And the boss of this level is a huge squid in a bubble that bounces around. And once you beat the squid, you get the classic ability from the earlier Castlevania games. So you can turn into a bat for 4 to 5 seconds, which is useful in some of the platforming segments. And then it's time for the next level, which is the ice world. And it's, of course, ice physics. So the enemies in this level are Eskimos, snowmen, and seals. And I died here and I got the new continue. So the password for this level was mix. So I didn't play any more of Kid Dracula this week. I had to put it down because I know it didn't come across when I talked about it, but this game is really hard. It's really tough for me at least. So I wasn't really enjoying it. This game might look innocent, but it isn't at all. It's frustratingly tough at some points, and the jump feels kind of inconsistent. It's a bit. I felt like it should have been a bit longer because I fell to my death so many times just because I wasn't at the edge of a platform, was making jumps and stuff, but that's a minor nitpick. So gameplay, you're Kid Dracula, self-proclaimed demon king, challenged by another demon called Galgamoth set on a platforming adventure. Control, the D-pad is movement, the square and circle button is jump, X and triangle is attack, the start button pauses, and L2 brings up the emulation aspects of this game so you can save, load, and change display settings. And all the gameplay keys or buttons can be changed in the menu. Graphics, so the game looks really simple, there's some cute enemy designs in the sprites, and otherwise there's not much detail to speak of. It looks very bland, very clean. Sound and music. Shinji Tasaka and Satoka Minami made the soundtrack for this game, and I really like the second track called Sky and the first one called Castle. So it's, I can't hum any tunes on the top of my head, but the music is there. Easter egg seekers and glitches. You can punch in the Konami code at the startup screen and we get a message saying not this time or something like that. So it's kind of funny. The Konami code usually gives you some advantage like weapons and extra lives and stuff like that, but in this case nothing. So in conclusion I wrote, yes, try it if you're curious. So this game looks cute, and but it has a steep learning curve, let's just say that. So it isn't easy in my opinion. There are a lot of cheap deaths due to knockback, and the game feels a bit slow. And I also wanted Kid Dracula's jump to be a little longer because, yet again, so many frustrating deaths just due to the shortness of his jump. But a good thing about this game is that it has a password system. It's only 3 letters or numbers, so it's really easy to get back where you were. And once you learn the patterns of the bosses, once you get into the game, I guess it's fine. But I wasn't willing to put in that time this week to just go through the game, I guess. But yeah, anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.